What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one will break down what's going on with NIO stock, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about the overall market and why tomorrow is going to be a very big day as we have some massive earnings coming out that will dictate how the market moves. And all of this data and this price action from the whole market will affect NIO as well. So before I break anything down about all this information, though, before I talk about what's going on with NIO stock and also the technicals for SPY, Tesla, and the QQQ, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And finally, don't forget about the Webull link. The offer ends very soon. Deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. Anyways, let's talk about NIO, what's going on with the share price. NIO is down 1.33% for the day, underperforming compared to the market. And this is something I noticed in NIO's price price ratio, which suggests that NIO was losing some strength. NIO ended up closing a little bit red for the day, once again losing some strength. However, it's not the end of the world because there is a possible accumulation structure that could be developing as NIO could be getting ready for a bounce in the future. I'm going to break that down in just a couple of minutes. Let's first talk about the market. I just want to remind you guys that for tomorrow, there's not really a whole lot going on. We have some building permits data coming out in the morning, 1 hour before the market opens. Besides that, there's not a whole lot coming out for data, like I said, but what's going to be massive for the stock market is going to be earnings for tomorrow. And this is going to be the biggest earnings day of the week, in my opinion, because on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, before the market opens, we have Goldman Sachs, we have NASDAQ, we have Ally Bank, we have lots and lots and lots of big banks reporting earnings and some very, very important investment firms. Then on top of that, after the market closes on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, we have Tesla, Netflix, United, and IBM all announcing earnings. That's going to be very impactful and very important for how the market ends up moving. If these companies do very bad, the entire stock market could cool off on Thursday. If they do very well, the market could run very nicely by Thursday and also even anticipation of them for Wednesday. So if Tesla and Netflix and all these stocks start running tomorrow as they approach earnings, which is going to be after the market closes, this could help the market hold up. This could actually be positive for NIO just to start us off. But don't forget, the end result of this is going to affect the market in the after hours, especially NIO. That's why I'm warning you guys right now about how big Wednesday is going to be going into Thursday. All right. So far, as of right now, the news coming out for the market has been bullish. Right here, we're starting to see that many of the expectations for earnings have been quite negative. The market is expecting some big declines in earnings, an 8.8% decline in earnings for Q2. And we're expecting lower revenues and big margin declines for the sixth consecutive quarter, driving the earnings down. They're saying that earnings are going to be bad. We have very low expectations. And yet, here's the good news. The banks have been beating. The banks are beating. If you look at the reports from Bank of America, Charles Schwab, and Morgan Stanley, they all beat on earnings today. They did well. They beat on EPS and revenue. They blew away lots of people's expectations. And this played a role in why the market ended up pumping. And on top of this, we had two more things that came out that helped the market pump. Goldman Sachs said that there's less likely of a chance of a recession coming next year, in their opinion, based off their chief economists' findings. That is, once again, technically it's bullish news. I'm not going to say they're right or wrong, but this is what they're saying, and the market loved it. And on top of this, Microsoft has a new AI tool that has been developed. This helped Microsoft not only jump, but many AI stocks and companies. At least this played a role for Nvidia pumping. Microsoft pumped, and the whole market started to pump because of this. Now, was this the only reason? No, it was a mix up of strong earnings and all these other factors, but this was like the cherry on top that helps the market. All right, so I want to make that as clear as possible. So now as the market's pumping and getting very excited to continue pushing up, the market just loved all this news. And then for NIO, I was looking at some news. I didn't really see anything big for NIO for today. But looking at what was reported, NIO had the ET5 reported with the 0 to 100 kilometer per hour time in about 4 seconds, which is very, very impressive. It also has very high amounts of horsepower. It has very, very good amounts of power output, and you can see right over here, and it's able to produce 360 kilowatt maximum power output with very, very insane amounts of acceleration. So it's a very, very awesome vehicle. I think it's going to continue to help them grow as the sedan becomes more popular, and I'm very excited for what's about to come for the company moving forward. The price pairs ratio is continuing to drop as NIO is losing some strength relative to the markets. And to add on to this, Thursdays tend to be weekdays for NIO. They're only green about 51% of the time, not very, very strong compared to like Tuesdays or Wednesdays. So we tend to slow down a bit for Thursday. So we're going to be seeing how that affects us. And overall, the short interest did decline a little bit at about only 9 million shares shorted, a little bit lower than usual. 34 million was the volume, so it's lacking volume. So it dropped on low volume, which is a decent sign. So what am I seeing in NIO's charts? Well, there are two possibilities. You could argue that there's an accumulation that is on the verge of forming as NIO is starting to form like this bottom here and is trying to base around this 10.2 area. But I'm not going to forget about these imbalances down here, especially if the market is declining later on into this 9.9 area. And there's a good chance it's going to visit this. So we're going to be watching 10.2. If that fails us, it's going to likely come all the way down to 9.9. If it bounces off 10.2, it's going to make its way up to the high we saw at 10.7, in my opinion. Kind of stuck in the middle, so we're going to be watching these levels very carefully. I will talk more about NIO in just a few minutes. Let's first talk about SPY and the other stocks out there. We got a nice pump on SPY. Overall, a very, very nice looking structure. And now we have these important levels to watch for. I'm going to zoom in on my chart in just a minute, just to show you these levels in a more meticulous manner. Basically, we have resistance around this 455 area. If we break it, if the market starts pumping with Tesla reporting earnings soon, approaching earnings, we could see this thing retest 455, potentially breaking and get to 456. It depends on the news for tomorrow. Now, you could argue that the market's overbought and this and that. I'm not really worried at this point. We're just going to have to wait and see how it opens. If it breaks below 453.5, we're going to see 452.69. So far, I mean, the market had bearish divergences that developed, but it did not matter because the market kept on holding up and pumping. The market is resembling a bull market where it just keeps going, no matter what the technicals say for the downside, because we keep getting good news. The news really helped, especially the bank earnings. So tomorrow morning, we're going to be watching these earnings, which are dropping. This is going to affect how we end up running. Goldman Sachs especially is going to be important. So far, what's very interesting is they said that there's a less likely of a recession. Why would they say this if they have very bad earnings? They may have relatively good earnings. There's a good chance this may actually help the market again for tomorrow. We also have Ally Bank and NASDAQ, which are going to have a bigger effect as well. So watch those very carefully. The odds do favor a retest of 455 and it breaking to try to get up to 456. But we're going to be watching this carefully just for confirmation. For Tesla, it reached my target of 295. If it breaks 295, we're going to be watching this thing get very close to 300. Still, it doesn't matter that much to me because we already made the majority of the move. And we caught this as I was calling out Tesla. Do you guys remember on Saturday, I released a video and I said there's a lot of opportunity in Tesla. It's going to squeeze this week approaching earnings. What has Tesla done? It squeezed and exploded. It reached 295 today. It pumped very hard. Now, even though it's pumping like this, it's going to likely hold up quite nicely tomorrow. I don't really see it crashing or anything, approaching earnings. And then once earnings come out, it's going to make a big reaction, and that's going to affect the market to some degree. So make sure you're ready for that. I'm going to be watching this 300 area if it does break above 295. If it breaks below 292, right over here, it's going to come all the way down to 290, then 288.95, and potentially 285. So watch these supports very carefully. I think it's going to try to retest 295, if not break it, to try to get closer to 300. And we will see where it moves from there. Last but not least, for the QQQ, this thing was a monster day after the report that came out from Microsoft. It ended up blowing up. If it breaks above this resistance that's right about here in this 387 area, it has a potential to try to get very close to 390. That's going to be a very important zone. This resistance zone up here. It has a lot of potential to try to push for it. And if it breaks below 385, we're going to be watching 384 and 382.62. Now, what do I think is more likely? Well, I think the earnings are going to be pretty decent, so it might try to hold around these levels and maybe shop around a bit because I don't know how much Tesla is going to pump. Tesla's going to affect it at least to some degree. It's going to be the stock on everyone's watch list for tomorrow. We may see some FOMO buyers that pump Tesla, which helps the market hold up. So I think it's going to try to hold around these levels and trade very close to them and possibly get another green day, a very flat, if not green day tomorrow. That's where I'm leaning towards, and I think that's going to affect the market. For NIO, I think NIO is going to have another very similar day. I think it's going to try to pop in the morning, retest this 10.7 zone, come right back down to 10.4, bounce again, and it's going to close very, very flat, maybe a little bit green for tomorrow. I think it's going to try to bounce after forming this double bottom. There may be some more buyers to step in after seeing this and lots of traders as well. If an accumulation is forming, we could get a pump approaching the next deliveries. And what's going to determine how this thing moves, once again, the biggest factor for NIO, I'm not just talking about like some registrations for the weeks in China and things like that. The biggest factor is going to be deliveries, which is coming out in just about a week and a half, or I would say like a little bit under 2 weeks. Uh, that's going to be very important. So get ready for deliveries. And when that drops, it's going to affect NIO big time. All right, guys, so I want to make that very clear. And that's what I have for this video. Thank you all so much for listening. NIO to the moon is the long term is still incredibly bright. And peace out.